The Menopause Mixer is a great way for women to understand and embrace the journey of menopause, understanding our right to be informed about what is happening during this magnificent feminine evolution. Look, learn, and know these 5 rights as we get into tonight's episode of the Menopause Mixer. And then if you haven't already, join us on Facebook in the Black Women in Menopause support group.
Oh my goodness. Hey everybody. Welcome to this month's Menopause Mixer. Yes. Finally, listen, we are so happy to be in front of you guys. Listen, last month we had to do a little twisting, a little turning to do it virtually, but I'm so happy to be here with Shinyeri. We are here in the Eze Health Center. Yes. So we're together. Normally it's me home or somewhere out in the streets, and then you being virtual. We're streaming in. So we're doing a good job of streaming in today. So hi everybody, welcome. So as you know, I'm Delana Watkins. As I said, I'm here tonight with Shinyeri Eze, and she is a medical practitioner with her own lovely practice here at the Eze Health Center. And we're starting these monthly menopause mixers. And so our biggest issue is not doing this, and that is not talking about menopause.
Right. It's a very kind of
like a taboo.
About. Yes,
it's almost like a taboo.
Yeah. Even
for lack of a better term.
right. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation about it. A lot that has been misconstrued. So part of the reason we're doing this is to really kind of just dispel a lot of the misinformation out there.
Absolutely. And to get through and be able to give women the facts and be able to have open dialogue. You know, I say this thing and I post about it all the time, how we talk about, you know, getting our menstrual cycle, having sex, getting pregnant, but we hardly ever hear a discussion about menopause. And it's truly that cycle. It's the whole part of the feminine evolution. It's part of your reproduction. So, I mean, as women, we need to be talking about it, and we're not supposed to just say 2 words. It's the change. It is more than the change.
The change, yeah.
I mean, that is a huge part of it. Your body is going through a change, but what exactly does that mean? So comment below if you feel like menopause is something that definitely lacks in our conversation as we're talking about health and wellness as women. Have you had a conversation with your healthcare provider or practitioner about menopause? Because I can guarantee you that there are a lot of things that you're likely experiencing if you're in your mid to late 40s going through perimenopause that is going to have a direct correlation to menopause. Yeah. Are you finding that with your clients too now?
I'm seeing that a lot.
Starting to have that conversation.
Absolutely. Having that conversation, coming in with multiple symptoms, not quite sure what's going on, and then helping them navigate, okay, these are the things that may be happening. This is what to expect. You know, and unfortunately, people do come in with kind of preconceived notion about the scariness of it all. And it really doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't. And when we go through the whole like plethora of symptoms that you might experience, of course, hot flash is like the number one that's up there. Why? Because that's the one thing that we see or that we can relate back to. You know, I can remember my grandmother and even my mom going through, and I would be sitting there shivering, freezing cold, and she is dripping in sweat. And I couldn't, you know, really
grasp what was going on.
And then, you know, obviously she would say it was the change, or I would know, you know, of course, as a healthcare provider, that that's what it is. And that was it. That was like the end of the discussion. It was just like, okay, I explained that away. You know, she's dripping sweat because of this. But it's the one thing that you could actually see and visualize to really know that that person was going through it. But just really looking back, a lot of what I know she experienced was a direct relation to menopause, you know, of what she was going through. So tonight we're going to talk about 5 rights. Did you know you had rights as a menopausal woman? Like there's certain things that you should know, that you have a right to when it relates to menopause. And we want you, not just me, we want you to embrace them as part of your menopause journey. So of course, me, I jot them down. So we're going to talk about them. So if you have any questions, just make sure you jot them down. We'll be looking and going through and answering some questions. If you're on Facebook, if you're in the Black Women in Menopause group, or if you're on my personal Facebook page, the third-party app that we're using will ask you to display your name. If not, you don't have to. You can just ask your question and we'll still see it. So what's the first right of a menopausal woman, Shinieri? Tell them, girl, give them the right. Tell them what they got the right to do.
It is the right to have an informative conversation with a knowledgeable medical provider. Yeah.
One being you.
Yes.
A knowledgeable medical provider. So what that means is that oftentimes we do have, our physicians, healthcare provider, whether it's an NP, a MD, whomever, you go to a holistic provider, whoever you normally see for your healthcare. Make sure you have that conversation with them, because I know for me, even with my experience with my healthcare provider, love her dearly, been going to her for almost 2 decades. And she honestly had very little knowledge when we sat and talked about menopause.
And so it is unfortunate. And honestly, even in medical training, they do kind of just breeze over it. It's not as mentioned, it's not as put in depth as, obviously the GYN and everything that Correct. So it's one of those things to where don't be afraid to bring up the conversation. I think a lot of times people do kind of brush it off and they're like, I don't want to bother my doctor with it. Or they don't think that there's options out there when there in fact are.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think just even, when you have the conversation with them, it allows them to also know and think that there may be other patients that they're seeing or clients that I wonder if Miss So-and-so, if that's what's going on with her, or it will kind of jar them to want to increase their knowledge about menopause as well.
Absolutely.
So the other thing that I tell, women, especially in the Black Women in Menopause group, is write stuff down. Like, don't discount the things that you may be experiencing, thinking that that's something that you're supposed to go through, or I'm, over 40 or whatever, and this is what I'm supposed to be experiencing. Put those things together, and it very well can be, related to, you going through menopause. And so we'll talk a little bit here in number 2 about what can be done as part of your menopause.
So there's definitely options out there. And again, having that conversation, you have to start with the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you, I was 47, about to turn 48, because I always try to go to see my healthcare provider during my birthday month. It's just been that way. So I was going to see her. So it had to have been 2017. And I kept saying to her, there's something just not right. And she was like, well, explain to me, what are you talking about? Something's just not right. And I said to her, I am putting on weight and have not changed anything. Nothing's different. I'm a stickler about, how I eat, what I do, work out. I was like, there's something not right. I need you to run some tests, or like, kind of like what's going on. Like, I'm thinking I've got some kind of condition going on, or like there's some. So lo and behold, I went and I started reading. Oh no, I was in a group. I was in one of my health groups, and there was a lady in there, and she pretty much, her post could have been my words. What she was experiencing, she had posted in there. And she said that her healthcare provider told her that she was going through perimenopause. And oh my God, a light bulb went off.
Look at that.
And I was like, that's it. That's it. Because she was 48 and I was turning 47 that year. And I said, well, low me down. That's what it was. And so we began to have that conversation. And there's really no test, so to speak, that you can run. It's not like you can do a blood test. You can check for your estrogen levels,
correct,
to just kind of give you some
idea where we are.
Exactly. Some idea where you are. But it's not like that test will say you're in menopause, but it will, either confirm or, not whether or not you're
on the decline with the estrogen.
With the estrogen. Yep. So I did. I went back and had her, do that, and clearly it was.
My God. Yeah, that confirmed everything.
It confirmed for me that what I was experiencing. So anyway, fast forward, I began to just kind of do a little bit more research and find out, what information was out there. And there's not a lot of practitioners
that are specialty or specializing within the realm of menopause. A lot of people would say, they go to their GYN, and have that conversation, and they may feel more comfortable and open because they're already dealing with that, kind of in alignment. But going to your PCP, primary care provider, they may or may not be comfortable even kind of going through the ins and outs of what to experience, what to expect, and even treatment options.
Yeah, so definitely. So we're hoping that we're sharing some nuggets that you guys can see yourselves having that conversation. But that is your first right. And that is to have an informed discussion with a healthcare provider that, has that information. It will be able to answer questions, because there's one thing about menopause is it's very confusing. There's a lot of things happening to your body. You can almost feel like your body's defying you, which is what I was going through. I was having this whole shock of
what is going on, especially in you being so knowledgeable about your health and your own body.
I was ready to fight somebody. I was what is this?
Yep. Because we always want to kind of find the source of why you're experiencing what you're experiencing.
So that was the thing. So that's why I put that as the first right. Now, the second right is that you have the right to know the risks and benefits of the treatment options. So I felt that was a good, very important to put that as right number 2. So of course, we've all heard of hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, right? That's the number one thing that most people
ask for.
So with that, I don't say don't do it. I say, once again, it goes back to understanding your needs, your body, your history. So it's going to be very individualized, right?
Correct.
So
depending on your family history, if there's a history of breast cancer, especially, we need to know that. If there's a history of ovarian or uterine cancer, because hormone replacement therapy can potentially affect your risks for certain conditions, such as cancer. So we definitely want to talk to your doctor about it. It's one of those things. It's not a kind of one thing treats everyone, and everyone
it's
is
not
different.
I'm going through, menopause.
And there's an automatic,
give me that pill, it's not, or put me on that hormone replacement therapy. There's a lot of factors that really needs to go into, and what I guess when I read through and when I started doing a lot of research and looking at studies and stuff like that, I think for me, what seemed to stand out a lot was, does the risk outweigh the benefits when you talk about hormone replacement therapy? And even they have bioidentical therapy. I may be saying it wrong. Am I referring to it? Yeah, I think it's bioidentical hormone
based on it's a lot more individualized.
Right? So with that, I think your risk decreases because they've taken into consideration some of the things that you just talked about, and it's a little bit more individualized. It's almost like the treatment is made specific for you based on your your body and things like that. So again, that requires a deeper conversation with your physician, and typically it's what I've seen is it's women that have very exaggerated symptoms. When they, as they're going through menopause,
and it's having a real impact, detrimental effect on their day-to-day lives.
Exactly.
So everyone's going to present differently. So that's one thing to understand. Some women
don't even have the hot flash.
Yes, they don't have.
They're like, girl, you don't need to carry that fan around. Where my fan at? Listen, I'll bring out my fan. Y'all know me with my cute little fan. Some women are like, I don't even need a fan. I don't go through, the hot
any
flashes.
of those, right? Yeah.
And I have what I call my moments, but I could go through it and you really wouldn't know. It's just to me. But I know some women that just drenched, like they are super, super.
It happens. I literally keep in one of my exam rooms. I literally keep a fan.
You have a fan
because I have clients who have those moments right then and there, and you gotta stay prepared.
Gotta stay prepared for that moment.
Yes,
so the presentation is different, but hot flashes is one of the number one symptoms, as I said before. Oh no, you're fine. That most women experience when they're going through menopause. So that's right. Number 2 is the right to know the risks and benefits. Number 3 is have supportive partners, employers, and friends. I think that is I put that as number 3 because I feel like, again, having this community is key. Outside of, your partner, your, family, your friends, coworkers, they need to know why it's 93 degrees outside and you've got a fan running. Or you want the AC in the office to be down on iceberg.
Right.
So part of that is having them understand what you go through,
what you're going through.
Yeah. So what else do you think is good?
Feeling that you
supportive?
Aren't going crazy,
Yeah.
So if you have a supportive, friends and family, and even an employer who knows, okay, this is what's going on. So there's not an assumption that there's other issues going on, but that you're in fact going through the typical menopausal symptoms. So
and all of that most often just requires education.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of what we're looking to do, and what we're preparing to do is provide education. This is a health and wellness initiative. If when you look at the grand scheme of things, there are a lot of working women out there, and working women of perimenopause and menopause age. And so their employers need to understand that there may need to be special accommodations as it relates to women that are in that phase, that are in that transition.
Certainly.
Right? It's almost, again, I'm going to go back to my point of being pregnant, right? There's certain modifications and accommodations that are made for that, because it's a phase, it's a condition, it's something that a woman is going through, but it shouldn't impact her environment, and it shouldn't impact her ability to work. And so with menopause, same thing. If you're listening to me, and if you are listening to us rather, and you are out there going through menopause and you're working, that's maybe a conversation that you should have, and not feel, embarrassed about it, not feel, or, be made fun of, or, isolated for it, or embarrassed, or have some, issue as it relates to, it's Delana, she's having one of her moments, it's hot flash. I do not need to be singled out because I am going through a transition, in my life. So
right.
That's part
just
of
taking away that stigma and that element of it. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the support comes in even with your family. So your family should also embrace you as well. If you want to knock down that thermometer a little bit in the house and make it a little bit more chilled, or have them dress accordingly. Yes, I'm running around with little to nothing on, and they're all like looking like Eskimos, right? Because it's you've adjusted the temperature, or vice versa. It's really just trying to make sure that they're supportive and understand and know what you go through. I mean, I know what we're referring to mainly as hot flashes, but there's other things, as you guys know, brain fog, being emotional, the mood swings, just a lot of that needs to be communicated to your family and your friends, so that they're aware of that. The one thing that I realized between that time when I was finally figured out what was going on with me was I noticed that I was always like so energetic and full of energy. You could ask me at 3:00, did I want to go out at 9:00? And I'd be, sure, no problem. Now, if you ask me at 3:00 or then, a little bit better, I'm kind of coming on the other side of it. But no, my energy was
just depleted.
It was depleted. Not only that, like just emotionally, I would have to like wrap my brain around it. Doing stuff, and just, it was a whole.
And understanding that that's happening. I mean, it's just, it can be confused with anxiety, depression, other, psychological
The presentation
things.
Of it is like
some of them are very similar. So it's
I was cool with staying home
and
like wrapping up and watching Netflix. My girlfriend was like, come on, let's call for no, I don't, like I'm good right here. Like just laying back watching Netflix. And that could be, kind of, like misinterpreted as, you're depressed, or, you're anxious, whatever. So having friends and family that are supportive, and understand that and communicate that to them too.
Absolutely.
Be honest, because it's not like they can diagnose you and figure out,
what's going on.
You have to kind of be open to that. Yeah. All right, so that's number 3. So what's 4?
Being free of social media fear mongering. And just really focusing on the facts. Misinformation is rampant out there.
It's very rampant.
So
and it's because that's why we're doing this.
So really, again, we talked earlier about going to a knowledgeable provider and asking the right questions, getting your information from the right sources, not just what you heard or what somebody posted or video you watched.
Right.
It's just, you have to go with the facts.
Yeah. And that starts with right number one, which is talking, like we said, talking with your knowledgeable healthcare provider.
Correct.
Or joining a group like Black Women in Menopause and really just having those conversations. Joining us for the Menopause Mixer, Menopause Mondays. So if we're not live, I usually will pop in and do something just quickly virtually in the group. And typically those topics come from what I see the women posting in the group.
Right.
Like if I see that they're asking a lot of questions about, what should they be eating? What should they be doing? Oh, I felt this. I've experienced this. What do you think? And then if I don't know, I will go and ask a healthcare provider. I'm in a menopause specialist group, and I'll go in and ask that because again, as I'm learning and expanding my knowledge, and you as well in this area, being able to understand, because there's some things, again, because we're not talking about it, so you don't really know what to ask. But I do want you to be in a safe space so that you don't have this fear mongering kind of atmosphere or environment going on where you just feel, okay, I should just deal with this, forgetful, foggy,
and think that
hot flesh.
it is what it is. And it doesn't have to always be that way.
Like the suck it up buttercup type thing.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is just making menopause sexy, right? So it's turning whatever it is that you're experiencing into a positive. So it's like the whole sweat thing. It's like, oh, I'm still hot. It just comes in flashes. Like just trying to think of different ways to position it so that emotionally you're able to more or less deal with it, as well as the people around you.
Correct.
Like when I forget stuff, I'll be like, wasn't worth remembering anyway. It's like I psychologically
work with it.
trying to work with what it is that you're going through, because it can be frustrating. I used to have a brain like an elephant. Tell me something once and I'm like, it's on. Like you can ask me, or if I should remember to do something. Now I have stickies. I have a system, in my phone. I have little ticklers.
You adjust accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
what we are talking about when we say that we want just the facts and no, social media fear mongering. And there's just, you getting in the right circles, getting around the right people, having conversations when you're out with your girlfriends. To really talk about those types of things and find out what they're experiencing. And then number 5, last but not least, is my favorite. So I started out with the best to kind of draw you in, and I'm going to end with the embracing it and just making this experience enjoyable. Right now, I tell my friends, who those that are still going through the perimenopause phase, like, get on my level. Like, come to my side of having menopause. Now I'm in a group, outside of the norm of what you're going through, sort of. It's like kind of telling them, level up and kind of come to my group. It's really just embracing it. And like I said before, changing the narrative about it.
And so you're not so fearful. And, because a lot of times when you've already kind of put in your mind, this is going to be a bad or negative experience, that's what you're going to end up experiencing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
Absolutely. So I want to jump on Facebook. So I'm looking on here to see if you guys have any comment, but I want to jump on Facebook and just see if we have any comments, because when I'm on here, I'm not able to see in the group.
Facebook, gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump on here just to see, because I hate for us to end today's session and not have a question answered live. That oftentimes, because some people are like me, they don't necessarily go back and watch the replay. So I want to go into the group and just see if there's any questions. And let's see. So we are live. I'm going to click on it so you guys won't be able to hear what I'm saying. Okay. Yes. All right. So I'm actually in the group. And so if you guys are in the Black Women in Menopause group and you have questions, you can post it there. I'll also jump over I went live on my own personal page as well to see, because I get a lot of people that are on the page that are not necessarily in the group. So see, we have more people there watching than we did in the group. So even if you go back and you watch the replay of this, All you need to do is put hashtag replay, and we'll know that you watch this later, and you still can post a question because it'll send me a message that there was a post or question put underneath of our live video. So we'll be able to go back and answer the question. And as we said before, even if we don't know the answer,
we'll always get back to
you or find out. This is part of us needing to have these conversations. And so that's why the menopause mixer is so important. Now, Shanieri, what's here at Ezzy Health Center, since I know that you are definitely like focusing on menopause, what else do you have going on? Tonight I know is focused on the menopause, but there's some factors, and we've talked about this before, both in our last mixer as well as the time before that, how there's certain factors that if you do things even as you're approaching the perimenopause age, that can affect how you experience menopause. So what things do you have here? And we know that, of course, going into it, weight loss and just kind of eating healthy and all of that definitely plays a huge factor, and it's especially changing your diet. So tell us what you offer here as a medical practitioner that the ladies that are local to us, to the DMV, that can help with that.
Absolutely. So I provide primary care services, but also medical weight loss. So women that are going through those perimenopause years, which can last several years even, where we're seeing that slow creep of the weight gain like you experienced, we can address that early. So we're talking about lifestyle modifications, even changes in your exercise regimen, eating habits, right? Not doing the starvation diet thing, but doing something that's going to be more long-term, more sustainable health-wise. So we do talk a lot about healthy weight loss, sustainable weight loss, and a lifestyle shift as well. So looking at your body composition, we talked about that with the first session, where as we go through those menopausal years, you're slowly losing muscle mass. So we do body composition analysis. So
and that is actually a huge thing. And that was what I had to embrace. As I said before, somebody who was a healthy eater, worked out, I had to adjust all of that based on what was going on with my body. I had to even shift the type of exercising that I was doing and incorporate more strength training because of the
muscle mass loss over time.
So
understanding these changes. So we definitely talk about that, and I call it wellness and weight loss. It's not just about losing the weight, but it's all the other elements of your overall health that are incorporated.
So I always say, a healthy lifestyle is, the side effect is weight loss. So if you adopt that healthy lifestyle, you will experience that. And it's not like it's, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in a month. It's not that, but you do experience, if you have to sit with, as we said before, everybody is different. So what you may recommend for me is going to be different than what you recommend for your next client. Why? Because what I just shared with you all, I am postmenopausal. So what my body is experiencing and what it requires now is totally different than the young lady that may walk in, behind me that is looking to experience weight loss. So it's so important for us to really understand that, learn, understand, and embrace that so that we make the proper changes and don't get frustrated by what we just saw on Instagram or what we just saw
it worked
on
for her, so it didn't work for me.
It didn't work for me. So really just understanding that. And it can take a little bit. Like it really can take just, I said food journals. I know it can be a pain in the rear to do those, right?
But there's an app for that. There's so many apps that make it easier.
That gives you triggers and reminders. But it is so important to really see, because there's a lot more is going on than just what the food is that you're eating. Right? So it's just really understanding all of that. So I hope that what we shared, someone just posted, I'm glad I caught this. I'm postmenopausal and it's disastrous, laugh out loud. And it can really feel so disastrous, which is why I hope that, understanding these 5 rights that we just talked about and incorporating you sitting and really just embracing and understanding what's going on. Oftentimes we know that there's, something, again, shifting. But if I hadn't taken the time, girl, I was be ready to take every little pill known to man. Like, what is this? Get this way off. And none of it would, it probably would have frustrated me even more so.
And not
that
knowing.
I didn't, experiencing that. So it says Facebook user, so I can't see what your name is. But what I would say is this: being postmenopausal, whether you're 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years postmenopausal, that there's still also phases of postmenopause that women experience. So make sure that you talk to your healthcare provider about that, and make sure that you yourself understand what that looks like. And so I want you to change the narrative about it really being disastrous and think of it as being more of a challenging journey.
Yes, that's my word.
That you're going to overcome, right? Like a challenging journey that you're going to overcome and embrace. So let's think about how we can make that, disastrous. Think of another D word, delightful or whatever, and just kind of insert that into it, and then figure out what you would need to shift or do to make it so. To make it actually become that. Because the biggest thing that I try to leave the ladies with is this: we are going to do the work now to change the narrative so that our daughters and our granddaughters will not have to have that experience of thinking that this is something that I don't want to look forward to. Right. This is going to be like awful, like it is the change. No, I want them to go into this knowing like, yes,
empowered.
I'm empowered. Like, girl, this is a good thing that I'm going through this. This is like the part of womanhood that not justifies, that's not the word, that embraces everything that came before it, right? So this is the part of womanhood that embraced your menstrual cycle, that embraced your reproductive years, right? That embraced your womanhood, if you be, or motherhood, if you were a mother, and then now you're embracing that whole womanhood. It's another phase of it. So that's how you're going to think about that, regardless of what you're experiencing. Because of course we know we have those women out there that just skate right on through. And I always say, like, you have good, better, best, right? Even when I'm talking to my client, like, oh, that's good for you, this is better, but this is the best thing for you. And so when you're talking about menopause, I guess when we look at good, better, best, like there's some symptoms or things that you may feel that are that are good, and then there's, or that some women go through and you might be like, oh, that's good, you don't get hot flashes, but girl, you don't remember a thing. So there's some parts of what you have. You might not get the hot flashes, but girl, you are flaky. You don't remember nothing. So I'm, it's just like,
what's the trade-off?
So what's the trade-off? So you're, likely going to get some, symptoms, obviously, because again, your body is experiencing these changes. But you can kind of play that menopause bingo game where you're like, girl, I'd rather have this or I got a little bit of that, and a little bit of this, So it's like really just embracing it and understanding it. And I think the only way to do that is to write things down, which is what, we were talking about a little bit earlier. And again, there's an app for that. There's an app for that. Even if you just use the notes area on your phone to write certain things down, so that when you go to see your healthcare provider, you remember them. Because then we just say you have brain fog, so you probably won't remember a lot. But if you take the time to, identify stuff and write them down, and then what's important to you, so that you don't feel like you are losing your mind or going crazy or frustrated. Like when you look at that list of possibles of things that you could possibly experience, it's rather long. So her name is Makai. I hope I said that. I went from having an IUD, had it taken out, and before I knew it, seemed to have skipped peri and menopause. I'm going to definitely work on positive thought. Good. My mother was a nurse and didn't speak about this part of life. Exactly. And it was Makai, let me just tell you, as a nurse, I can promise you that it was because, like Shaniri said, we got like this much. Menopause, education wise, this much. And then even as a nurse, I said before how my mom would like sit there and just, I would look at her and be like, are you good? Right. Like, you okay? And my mom was a nurse. And she just never, she'd be like, oh, just with her fan or whatever, her thing. And she'd always have a rag around her neck, ice cube. I'm like, what is going on? And it was just always the change. But she and I never had that conversation other than she would say to me, wait until you go through this. And that was it. It was the gist of the
right,
conversation.
And that was it.
Yeah. She would like, oh, you're talking about how it's, whatever, I'm hot, you're cold. Wait until you go through this. And that was probably about the gist of
the conversation.
We never sat down and did this. We never sat down and had this type of conversation about it. It was always just like a one-liner about whatever it is, that she was
you'll
experiencing.
Go through it and that's it.
You'll go through it and that's it. Yeah. So Makai, yes, talk with other women and share it. If you have children, a daughter especially, make sure that you're sharing and having that conversation about menopause as well. Not just to kind of throw it out there like it's a taboo or it's a bad thing or I'm gonna wish menopause on you.
Right. It's really about how our mindset.
It was like, I just remember that. It was almost like, wait till you go through it. It's almost like a negative thing, like threatening. So,
it's going to be bad, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. It honestly doesn't have to be. Not that we're saying that the symptoms are, glorious and all of that, but we're saying embrace it as part of, your feminine evolution. It's part of your, womanhood. Contractions weren't all that, nice either, but it was part of your pregnancy. It was part of it.
Yep.
Going through that, the turning and the churning, and my son putting his foot up here and doing all this, when I was pregnant, that wasn't, joyful. It wasn't pleasant either, but you also knew you embraced that differently, didn't you? Because you knew that there was a reason
behind it,
and you were able to explain it. So do the same with menopause, just kind of change the narrative about that and not scare the poor, young ladies in our lives about like,
you just wait,
you just wait. No, you go through this. Oh my gosh.
It doesn't have
conversation.
To be that way.
It definitely doesn't have to be that way. So I want to thank you ladies for sticking in here, joining us for our monthly menopause mixer. We talked about the 5 rights, embracing the 5 rights of menopause. And if you caught it in the middle or you just joined us, make sure you go back and watch the replay because we shared some nuggets and we really want you to know the 5 rights. You can write them down and put them in your phone, write them down. If you journal, put them in your journal so that you can understand exactly what your rights are to experience menopause. Girl, you got rights. You got rights. And it ain't just the right to sweat and forget stuff and have mood swings. That's like the smaller like nucleus of the bigger picture.
Right.
So again, if you watch this and you have a question, just go back, or if you think of something after we end our live and you want to ask a question, just post it in there and use #replay, and we'll be able to go back and answer any questions that you may have. So any last parting words that you have for the ladies? I'm going to put up the website that they can go to get more information about menopause, join our group, learn what we have. Hold on here. So it is, nope, that ain't it. Hold on, y'all. So you can see it. And I don't want to ticker with the banner. So I'm going to put your website up first. So the essayWay.com. That's what you're about to share.
So, as she mentioned, we're here at Essay Health Center live today. And you can check out the website, the essayWay.com. We provide a number of different services, including primary care, support during menopause as well, and medical weight loss. So again, I'd say my kind of last words here in regards to what we discussed is really shifting your mindset and your thinking about the experience of menopause. I myself have not gone through it yet, just turned 40, but I know stark contrast we are. But I mean, definitely just understanding that this is going to be a journey that I know I will eventually go through, and also helping other women go through that transition. So destigmatizing it, getting rid of the fear, the mystery about it. It doesn't have to be that way. We can definitely embrace a different mindset when it comes to going through this phase of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just understanding and knowing, okay, she's 40. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. She'll be a few years. What's good about this is being able to understand and share the experience as you're going through it. So as I've shared my experience, even on the postmenopausal side, and now with Shinyeri, knowing that in a couple of years, you'll actually, be going through that and being able to go these 5 rights and embrace it.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Thank you, ladies. Again,
Certainly.
go to blackwomeninmenopause.com for more information. There's even a couple of things that you can download for free on there. Go to Black Women in Menopause if you're on social media, and join the group. Invite your other friends, even if they're 40 and not going through the perimenopausal phase yet. Make sure that you invite them in to join the group, because of course age doesn't necessarily, it's one of the factors. There's of course surgical menopause that you can go through if you've had an oophorectomy, which is having your ovaries removed. So there's not necessarily as a number to say, you know, if you're not 45. So I have a few ladies that are in the group that are in their 30s that actually are experiencing menopause.
Or chemotherapy
chemo. I was getting ready to say chemo induced.
Yeah.
We have a couple of two ladies. I know Toya posted in there about that, asked questions. So there, it's definitely one of those things that, and even so, if you're not, you still want to know. I don't want to know about something just before I go through it. I want to be like emotionally, mentally, and physically prepared for it.
That is the key.
The same way you were with, you know, again, the menstrual cycle and your pregnancy. Like I did a lot of, you know, you do a lot of asking questions, you know, research and all of that. So, and anytime there's a change that's going on with your body. So, all right, ladies, thanks again. Let me make sure you guys don't have any questions. Let me go back to the group chat and just make sure. Nope, we are good. All right, we're going to end this live. We appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you again at the next Menopause Mixer. And you will have the opportunity to join us live here, and we'll post when the next one will be. And we're actually in Southern Maryland, in Waldorf, as we said before, as a health center. So we would love for you to join us live in studio. Oftentimes it is good to have that dialogue back and forth face to face. So so if you're in the area. So we appreciate you ladies for joining us.
Absolutely.